Good day, my local drones. It is me, BioGundam. And for today's video, I'm going to be doing something very different today. So instead of talking about a specific series, or, doing an overview on a series, we're going to be talking about a genre of anime. We're going to be talking specifically about horror anime. And here, to help me with this, is Lonewolf. So Lonewolf, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lonewolf. I haven't done too much of this YouTube stuff to help that anime snob with some of his old videos. But aside from that, I don't have too much experience, but I've been watching anime for years and years, and I've built up some knowledge, and I've written some articles, so hopefully we can make this a fun little podcast.
Yeah, we'll try and keep it. We'll try and keep it to like a short and poignant podcast. So before we discuss like the topic at hand, let's define what is horror. Like, let us define horror as a genre, and there's a little chart I found, dear viewers, which I will be linking, which will be on screen right now. But so before we continue, define the horror genre just for a second. Like, define it in your words.
I'd say it's anything that invokes the feeling of fear. Could be fear of the unknown, could be fear of yourself, could be fear of the future, could be fear of the past. So it's just anything that invokes the feeling of fear.
That's pretty good. So today we're going to be talking about sort of horror anime, some series that make it work, or some series that don't make it work, or is there a way that horror and anime can work? Because, there's a saying that anime and horror don't mix very well. And I think, do you want to start off the Kickstart discussion? I mean, Lonewolf, with a series that you think it works or not, and we'll just go back and forth until we think we've reached a good consensus.
Yeah, I'd like to start with Mononoke. So it's the Kenji Nakamura anime. It's not Princess Mononoke, not the Ghibli movie. A lot of people confuse it with that, but no, it's called Mononoke. It's made in 2007, and what is really interesting about this series is that it has very bright and vibrant and very almost abstract art in this anime. It doesn't look like a horror anime by any means. It's extremely colorful, and it's very strange looking. It's not the character designs and everything is not typical anime character designs, and the color palette and all the artistic choices are not what you would assume would be for a horror anime. But because of the subject matter of this anime, and because of the tension building, the atmosphere, and all those things that are important to creating a good horror, this anime tends to work. And a lot of people that I've discussed horror anime with agree with me.
So I think a horror series that sort of works for me, at least for like the first part of it, is the anime series Shiki, because like for the first like few episodes, like directing wise, it does a very good job of setting up this like mystery and sort of like this creepy eeriness to it. Like, it's in a village and people don't know what's going on. There's death, and it's like, what is going on? And it sort of sets up that fear of the unknown. Like, you don't know what's going on. Like, weird shit is happening. You don't have the answers, but you know that in your gut it's happening. And of course, the answer gets revealed and it's vampires, and then it becomes like a comedy for the second half. But I feel that Shiki, directing-wise, the first two episodes were very strong as far as like that setting in that creepy, lingering fear of the supernatural. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think what Mononoke and Shiki both do good is creating that uncanny valley of this fire. There's some very odd character designs in Shiki. It gets memes sometimes, like just the crazy hairstyles and everything.
I actually did a review on Shiki. I may link it to you later on after we've done this video. But like the character designs don't really help. I mean, like it's way too, like, Shiki to me is like the character designs are way too anime for its own good. If you kind of understand,
It's absolutely bonkers. Like the mountain train, the Yu-Gi-Oh type hairstyles, like the absolutely mad.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And then you have like character designs that look really like they look normal, like normal in air quotes
compared to everyone else. It looks normal.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, she's got a bob cut and long hair. Okay, that's great. So let's talk. So what's another example of a series that you think that makes it work?
Have you ever seen what was it called? There's a there's a sequel or like a prequel to Ayashi, and it's called it's Mononoke, and it's called Ayakashi, and it's a bunch of short stories that are also horror based, and one of the short stories in Ayakashi is Mononoke. And so yeah, it's just this little, and they tend to do this often with horror stories. They mix it in with other short stories just because I guess they don't feel that the story is strong enough to stand on its own. But Ayakashi is this like collection of 3 horror stories from Japan. They all tend to be pretty good, but Bakeneko is definitely the best of them, and that's the one that ended up they moved forward with it and created the full series of Mononoke with the art style and like the music and everything. Music is a really big one, especially for horror. You need that creepy music, the atmosphere.
Yeah, speaking of like music, and I had my mother listen to the Shiki like soundtrack, and I said to her, because like I was trying to describe it and I couldn't find the words, and I said to my mother, hey, listen to this, and I gave her a few tracks, and she said to me it sounded very creepy and sort of Stephen King-ish.
Okay, so it worked for her. It was I guess she thought it worked as far as the horror is concerned.
Yeah, she thought the soundtrack was very sort of Stephen King-ish. Even my stepdad like listened into it, and he was like, oh, this is kind of, this is very like, they're not big into anime, like they try and understand, but they're like, oh yeah, our son likes this, yada yada. But I think another series that sort of makes it work, but on a different level, is like Higurashi. But it goes more for like the paranoia aspect of horror.
Yeah, Higurashi is one of the classics there.
Yeah.
A lot of people have seen that one, and like they didn't really know what they were getting into. But they thought it was just a little fun anime about the countryside and his little friends, and it kind of seemed like a harem at one point. They were kind of going in that direction, but no, it just turned into something completely different.
And actually, like I think we both like for the first 3 we covered, they were more like suspense and the unknown out there. But actually, let's talk about the whole like psychological fucking freak out shit now, because like there's some really good ones as far as that goes. Like Perfect Blue is a great example by Satoshi Kon. Like I actually watched that movie and I was like, fuck, this is amazing.
Yeah, Perfect Blue, it was his first movie, so it's strange. Satoshi Kon isn't really known for stuff like Perfect Blue and Paranoia Agent. They really captured paranoia. It's right there in the name for the Paranoia Agent, and I think that's just a lot to do with his own personal style. He always has a dualism thing going on. Like one part of his anime is always set in realism, like something that's like actually happening in real life, and then there's like another part which is set in something else. So in Perfect Blue's case, it was delusions, and then for Paprika it was dreams, and then for
I haven't seen Paprika, but it's on my to-do list. Like, I need to watch more of Satoshi Kon's movies.
Oh man, you need to watch Paprika. Millennium Actress.
That's also on my list as well.
Oh, you haven't seen Millennium Actress? God.
It's on the list. It's on the list. Like, I've been busy with school and shit. So we've sort of tackled like suspense and sort of psychological horror. So would you like to talk about series that you think that don't work? And we'll use this to sort of as a springboard to dive into sort of how anime in general handles horror.
I don't know. Have you seen Mirai Nikki?
Yes.
So I think all that genre in general, the death game genre, they try to go have a horror like aspect to it. Like there was a few other ones, but I can't quite recall right now. Like there was one about like a bus full of kids, and then they get stuck in a countryside or whatever, and like they're slowly dying off. Like all those ones where it's like they just get stuck somewhere, or like they have to kill each other. I feel like it becomes more about the entertainment value of like watching these people slowly die, rather than the horror or psychological aspects of it. And I feel like it's entertaining. Definitely, like some of these shows can be pretty fun to watch, just like guessing who's gonna die next and that sort of thing. But I think it misses the mark as far as like what a horror anime should be.
Yeah, and they more and those type of series usually focus more on the novelty and the gratuitousness. Like, oh no, look at all this blood and shit. Like Another, like you ever heard of the anime Another?
That was fucking terrible.
It was so fucking bad. It's like a B-list, like C-list horror movie, like Attack of the Evil Classroom. It's like, and actually that's one example of a horror that doesn't work. Like it doesn't work on so many levels, because like A, the mystery isn't solved. Like B, it could be completely avoided, and C, like most of the characters are bland and boring, and you don't really care. Like at least in some horror series, they would at least make the characters somewhat likable, but Another doesn't do this. It's just like, oh, these are just student archetypes. Guess who's gonna die? And they die in absolutely brutal ways. I mean, if they focused more on the paranoia instead of the actual, like, fucking shock value and shit, then maybe a novel would be an actual, like, decent series, but it isn't, because they don't expand on fucking anything. Like, the mystery of why it's the Attack of the Evil Classroom is never solved. Like, at the end of the series, like, we all know that this shit's gonna happen again to a different set of people, because they didn't solve the mystery of the fucking evil classroom. They just stopped the fucking killings for this time around.
Yeah, I think another was just one of those. Yeah, they just wanted to make like a survival game, like survival deathmatch type thing, but then they just added like in some horror elements kind of out of nowhere, like some dolls, creepy dolls. Look how creepy they are. Look how pretty we can make the dolls. And it was just I don't know, it didn't work, and I feel like they're just borrowing aspects of horror for their own like little flavor that they just, like a little sprinkle of a shitty anime to try to make it somewhat better.
I mean, if it was just like if it was like if it was a show about like this guy, like this normal guy making friends with a somewhat creepy girl, like it would have been like an objectively better show. But no, they made it like Final Destination, the anime, and it just is just boring and shit. And
yeah, have you seen Cosette no Shouzo, or what's the English name for it? Let me try to find it. But it's a show about like this dude that's slowly losing his mind because of this girl.
I think I may have heard of it. I mean, you just link me this stuff through my anime list.
Yeah, I'll link it.
Oh yeah. Now, we sort of talk about like psychological horror and some like the splatterpunk crap that Japan tends to use, which honestly I think all that splatterpunk stuff, like they tend to focus on, or like the shock value, I think devalues horror, because it's not all about like splatterpunk, grrr, there's blood everywhere. Like there's other types of horror, like for example, personal horror. Oh, I have seen this show.
Yeah.
It's been it's been a long time.
The guy's just slowly losing his mind because of, like, he falls in love with her, but like she's not really there. He's just losing his shit. It's really entertaining.
Yeah, I remember that show. And I remember at the end he like turns into some sort of like demon or some shit like that, and there's like this psychic who's like, oh, he's fallen in love because like they had the Lover's Tarot or something.
Yeah, the OST for this is actually really good. Like, fantastic. I think it's Yuki Kajiura. She does it. Yeah.
Oh fuck, really nice, yeah. OST. Like what the fuck, it's been so long since I've seen the damn show, but I remember the scene where he's like staring at a mirror and he's like gets absorbed into the mirror or something like that.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of neat like little visual good one that has the Yuki. Not a lot of people talk about it as horror, but it's the Kara no Kyokai series. Have you seen Kara no Kyokai, right? Like,
yeah, I have. Yeah, I've seen Kyo no Kokai. Yeah.
There's even one of the OVAs has just straight up zombies. So I definitely I'd put it under horror.
Yeah, it's more of that like actually Kyo no Kokai is such an interesting series because it tackles like quite a few like different subgenres of horror. Like there's a bit of gore, there's a bit of psychological, there's monsters, there's like serial killers, and there's paranoid shit. Like it pretty much captures like most of the core stuff of most horror stuff out there. And
yeah, I feel like it's very underrated. Like people were talking about it back when it came out. Like was it 2007? Wow, a lot of horror anime came out in 2000. But
I think it was
right
the economic crash.
Oh yeah, people were having a moment, I guess. And then yeah, like not a lot of people talk about it these days. They're just like, what was that you talking about? Caught on what?
I mean, I'm a big fan of like anything Type Moon, so I generally like watch majority of the stuff Type Moon, or if I haven't watched it yet, I'm probably planning on watching it. Like I like it's not the best Type Moon thing out there. Like I've seen better, but I think as far as like horror goes and as this discussion goes, it's not a bad OVA. Like the series itself is not like the series itself isn't bad, and it's well animated and it does tackle like a lot of interesting themes. Like for example, the main character Shiki split personality disorder, or the it also tackles like some of the ideas that Fate brings up, like the root and the source of magic and origins and yada 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 yada, all that Type Moon bullshit. Fuck, man. The Natsuverse is actually the Natsuverse in its entirety covers like a lot of genres as well. Of course, at the moment they're focusing on the heroic spirit gacha games, which is just pumping out husbandos and waifus for the sake of games, for the sake of cash. But But
Yeah, I think it's a bit unfortunate with the direction. I actually thought Kara no Kyokai. I mean, some of the OBAs are hit or miss, but like I feel like the first three and number 5, I think that was the one with the zombies and shit. Those are really good. What I think.
yeah, wasn't there this guy who didn't have a brain and he's like and his body was being controlled by like a brain in the jar and he didn't even fucking know it?
Yeah, that was part 5. That was the crazy
Yeah,
one.
and he kills himself by throwing. He basically grabs the jar of his brain and chucks it and kills himself.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. And like the animation for this was amazing.
Wasn't it Type
So
Moon that
good.
did it?
Yeah, it's Ufotable. Did it.
Yeah, Fotable. The fucking unlimited budget works.
Unlimited budget works, exactly.
They make very
Yeah.
beautiful Fate Stay Night. If only they would make a Tsukihime anime, because Tsukihime dives into that psychological crap as well, because like for some of the arcs it's the main character going insane. Like there's this one scene where like have you heard of Tsukihime?
Yeah, it's they had an old anime for it, like a old.
What
Like,
old
I think
anime?
Dean did. Wasn't there a Tsukihime anime?
No, that doesn't exist.
Oh shit.
That's the joke. But anyway, like there's a scene in one of the routes. We're just going to talk about the game, but because I'm just going to talk about the game. Like there's a scene in one of the routes where he's like walking around like murdering people and shit, and like it's like some weird dream sequence or something like that. It's a weird dream sequence, and he's like going around and murdering people and shit. And he meets another like serial killer and stuff, and they're like exchanging ideas about like killing techniques and crap. And they're like, "Oh, and I was like, "Oh, nice to meet you. See you later. No, keep up the good work." And it's so fucking weird. Like if you saw that, like if you didn't get the context of that scene, you'd think it's really weird. But like in the context of the series, like the main character is going insane. Like he is not consciously doing this. Like it's very much like things that are happening that's out of his control. And then there's like another example of when Arquaid accidentally like casts what was this? She didn't do a spell on him, but basically he looked directly into her eyes, and she was like, and her eyes were like doing something magical and stuff. And then he like tries to rape her, like rape Arquaid or some shit like that, and try and murder her as well, if I remember correctly. And he's like, "What the fuck is going on? Why can't I control myself? What is going on? What are these urges?" And like I think Tsukihime covers more like the paranormal and psychological aspects, because like you have Arquaid, who's also like really hungry for blood and tries not to basically try and kill people, because she knows that once she starts, she won't stop, and that's including like Shiki, who is her helper. Yes, another character called Shiki, because we talked about Shiki, and then Koino Koko has a character called Shiki, and now Tsukihime has a character called Shiki. Fucking Japanese naming conventions.
No, Type Moon just likes this. That's gotta be it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was the Tsukihime. Was Shingetsu Lunar Legend Tsukihime?
Yeah, I was talking about that one, but the fans say it doesn't
Oh,
exist.
it's fucking trash because it's fucking trash.
The visual novel or the manga adaptation they made was much better, but you know, this is early Type Moon, so it wasn't like not all the ideas are fully fleshed out, and also you should play the visual novel to get the full ideas. But like,
Speaking of a visual novel that should really get adapted, but I don't know, it might not work in today's political climate. Saya no Uta.
that one. Actually, do you want to talk about Sayano Uta for a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played through all of it, but I've seen enough to like where it's like this would be fucking amazing.
I've seen the part of where like he's got like chopped up his friend. He's chopped up one of his friends and he's putting it in the fridge and stuff.
Yeah, pretty much he's getting controlled by some Lovecraft like horror creature that has disguised itself as a cute girl, and it's pretty much telling
Saya
him
actually
to
manipulating him, or is that like he's just going
I
along?
don't know, maybe
with
it's just his fucking delusions. He's just fucking losing his shit. But I guess if you want to give the main character the benefit of the doubt, being manipulated by this Lovecraft thing, but
I mean, are you being manipulated? Like with Lovecraftian creatures, you really can't tell whether it's them manipulating you or you can't comprehend you can't comprehend what the fuck they are, and so you're just going along with it.
Well, yeah, I guess that's the thing with Lovecraft. Like, it's just they're so like incomprehensible that you just fucking lose your shit and you start murdering people.
Wasn't there a scene in because I think it's being released on Steam, but like wasn't there a scene where like a girl like comes in and basically like Saya's like, "Oh, go keep her as a pet."
Holy shit, yeah. There was a lot of fucking crazy scenes.
And they have like this fucking BDSM like threesome or some shit like that.
Like a crazy monster threesome. There's a lot of sex, there's a lot of murder, there's a lot of all the crazy shit. And I feel like it would be a really fun anime, but just in the political climate that exists right now, I don't think we're gonna get it.
They would have to make it into an OVA. There's no way you could get that shit on television.
Oh yeah, even as an OVA, it'd be like, how are you gonna do this?
They did it in the 80s and 90s. There is a way.
But yeah, it was by our good friend Urobucha. Urobucha. That's
Oh
the
my
one.
fucking lord. They got... Oh, dude. Oh, Seiya. Fucking Sound of Seiya. I'm gonna have to fucking grab some pictures for, like, when I do the actual video part and, like, grab some pictures, because, like, I don't think people will believe us unless we show, like, Case how insane it gets. But I've seen the pictures and shit, and it's like... Fuck me.
Oh, yeah, it's some crazy shit, man.
Let's see, we still covered, like... I think that would, like, as far as horror goes, that would be, like, almost gore and disturbing in a sense. Like, it's so shocking.
Yeah, that's definitely the grindcore. Like,
I mean, I'm not disturbed by it because it's like whatever, but you know, it's like Jesus, dude. And I think another aspect that we have not tackled at the moment is personal horror. So personal horror is, I guess, like you said before, like at the beginning of the video, it's a fear of yourself or the fact that you are losing your humanity. And quite a few series nowadays sort of tackle that concept. You know, like Tokyo Ghoul, Parasite, Shiki to a lesser extent, and sort of other series that have and other series that have monsters in it. You know, where people are becoming monsters or different. Like in Tokyo Ghoul, for example, when like the main character gets back from the surgery because he's become like this half-breed ghoul thing. Oh, by the way, in Tokyo Ghoul, ghouls are like creatures that eat human flesh and yada yada yada, just to give people a preface in case they haven't heard of it. But in the beginning episode, he's trying to eat something and he can't. Like there's a scene in the anime where he's trying to eat something and it tastes like garbage, and he's like trying to chug down milk down, and he like throws it back up again, and he's like trying to eat food, and he's like, why won't it go down? And he keeps on puking it back up, and he can't eat anything, and he's like vomiting it back up. He tries to kill himself. He tries to stab himself. It's just like, these ghoul organs, they must be doing this to me. I must rip him out. And it's like, and he can't because his fucking skin is apparently immune to knives or some shit. And the knife just breaks. And he's like, fuck. And then he's like, oh, I'm so hungry. And he's like roaming the streets and something. And he smells something delicious. He's like, oh my god, it's something I can eat. And then when he like goes up to and when he follows the scent and he finds out what it is, it's a dead human body. And he's like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to eat people. And it's really impactful in that way, because this is a normal guy who's had like the things that we take for granted taken away. Like he can't eat vegetables. He can't eat fruit anymore. He can't eat bread. He can't even eat fucking rice anymore, because everything tastes like garbage to it because of what has happened to him in the story. Like just watch it and find out. But like that first scene, like that like first episode scene was very impactful, and I think it's an aspect of like personal horror of that, like, you know, you're becoming the monster that you're becoming a monster, and you can't control or stop it, and you have to adapt to a new way of living. And like Lonewolf, what is your take on series like that?
I mean, it's definitely a good way to start the series and like make sure there's a big impact. I mean, Tokyo Ghoul, a lot of people are gonna bag on it just because it's like one of those really popular kind of meme-ish. But I think it did a few things right as far. But like obviously later on it goes off the rails a bit.
Oh yeah, in the manga it becomes even more off the rails later on, like in the sequel. Like at the ending scene is absolutely ridiculous, but I mean it has its issues. But I think for the personal horror aspect of, like, you know, adapting to this new life and, you know, accepting what you have become, I think is it's definitely like personal horror to a point, because really he didn't really have a choice of what he became. It was just forced upon him. And I think the struggle of him trying to find out and like try and eke out an existence is very compelling. Like, your take?
Yeah, I feel like those first few episodes are really just as he's getting to the realization that he's no longer human. It's that very odd feeling of, you know, just not feeling, not being able to feel comfortable in your old. I feel like Parasite does a better job overall. I wasn't just because like it takes some things from the manga and interprets them in different ways, but in general I definitely felt like it was a better package overall, and I related more to the characters in Parasite just because I felt better written. His alien half of him had like a person. It was easier to, I guess, like personify his, like, what went wrong really, like with himself, because it was like, okay, all the alien thing that joins me sometimes.
Yeah, like and Tokyo Ghoul, like his ghoul side or sort of like that that not human side of him manifest as like the ghoul where he got his organs from. And actually, that's actually a phenomena that happens where people who have organ transplants, they actually take on the characteristics or aspects of the people that they've had organs transplanted from, which is an interesting it's an interesting phenomena that happens that they take on like the personality or tics or certain aspects of that person's personality, which is very interesting. And doctors don't really know why. All right, they don't really know why. But like when Kaneki feels like he's giving in, he sees like a manifestation of the ghoul who he got his organs from, and it's his fight against that. Like that's his fight, you know. Like his ghoul side is telling him just like, "Come on, eat your friend. He's delicious. Don't you smell him? He's so good." And Kaneki's like, "No, this is my friend. No, you know, I'm better than this." And well, that idea is cool in it. I think it's a lot easier to relate when this is like when the actual thing's like an actual physical being that talks to you, like the physical demon on your shoulder. Like this isn't like a psychological thing on your head. You have something talking to you in your head saying like, "No, I don't want this." Like it's an actual physical thing that is alive and talks to you, and other people can hear it. So it's not just you screaming into the void.
Yeah. So like it became part of him over time, but yeah, in Tokyo Ghoul it was just inside of his own head. So I guess the aspect of Parasite I enjoyed was just that it was, you know, like he could actually talk to it, and it wasn't, and he had better mental health, I guess, than Kaneki.
Yeah, well, like Kaneki isn't exactly the most mentally stable dude. Like he's got a lot of psychological issues, which I think was the point of it. Like, which I think was the point of his character. Like he's a character who's trying to get his shit together. And he's almost got it, but he has a lot of flaws. That he's almost like a tragic hero in a way. Like he's like it's his flaws that really bring him down. But I think Tokyo Ghoul was going for more like the psychological horror, and Parasite's going more for like the body horror feel, because you know.
Oh yeah, body horror. That's a big one too. Actually, Acura. I think that's the king of body. When Tetsuo is slowly transformed, that baby creature, it's pretty crazy. Like, man. Yeah, Acura is definitely up there as far as the...
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here. And if we compare like body horror and psychological horror, I think I think like body horror is more like visceral, because other people can see the change. Like it's a lot more obvious that like if you're like mutating into some sort of creature, it's a lot more shocking because other people can see it. Like you're growing fangs, you're growing claws, you're mutating into God knows what else. You know, you'll never become a human again. And like the psychological stuff, like it's just fucking you, and God knows what else is in your fucking head talking to you. Is it a manifestation of your urges that is trying to say, "Oh, let go and control," or is that like really like someone else inside of you talking to you psychologically in your head? Like you don't fucking know.
Yeah, stuff in your head I think is just hot in general. Are there any other series you wanted to mention specifically? I don't know, I guess getting to almost an hour now.
Yeah, we'll start wrapping this up shortly. But actually, we should also talk about High School of the Dead as well, because I actually did a review for it and it's getting edited. Now, as a horror, it's not really that great, but as like a splatterpunk action series, it's actually not bad.
I enjoyed it overall, just because it's, you know, if you turn your head off and you just enjoyed it for what it is, the titties and the zombies and all that stuff, it's... Oh, you know what's really funny? One of the characters, the otaku guy, his name is Kota Hirano, and Kota Hirano is the creator of... Or no, not Death Note. What the fuck am I saying?
Hellsing?
Hellsing, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, so pretty much the creator of Hellsing is a character in High School of the Dead.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking amazing. And actually, speaking of Hellsing, where would you put Hellsing on like the... Would you put Hellsing on like almost like the monster or like the gore kind of side of horror?
Probably more on the gore side. It's gory. It's a nice, fun, gory show.
Yeah. Now the police officer that Alucard turned into a vampire, would you describe her transformation as more like a psychological horror thing, as she's coming to terms with what she is?
Somewhat, but it's not really focused on too much.
Yeah, I know. Alucard's just more like, deal with it, kid.
Just fucking deal with it. Like he's not gonna walk her through. But
which is weird. I would think that he would walk her through it, considering that he's been a vampire for how fucking long.
Yeah, but Alucard just doesn't have that empathy, I guess, for other people. He was just created his deal with it.
I mean, does he? I know that he pats her on the head sometimes and tries to be like empathetic, but I think also he just likes to kill shit. So
yeah, I think one of the main appeals for Hellsing, all the crazy fucking violence, like it just has a lot of really great action scenes. There's a lot of cool fights, and at the end of the day, I think that's what people watch it for. They're not watching it for the complex characters or the psychological drama of Sarah stealing body or whatever.
Another series we could talk about is Devilman, because that
Devilman.
That is a very interesting show because it tackles a lot of issues. Like, it tackles body horror, psychological, it's gory and disturbing, and it literally, like, it does tackle, like, what happens when you could, and it does tackle the realistic consequences of what happens when you could turn to a fucking rage monster and kill shit. Like, and it also tackles the idea of, humans fear the unknown, and because they fear what they don't understand. Like, would you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Devilman was one of the best ones to do this. And there's a series that what's his name, Masaki Yuasa, he did before. It's called Kaminozume, which deals with a lot of the same. But it's not very well known, but it's probably my favorite.
Yeah, it's hard for me to track down some of those works because they have like so many reprints or redones or like retellings for like, because like there's like several Devilman series. Like there's ones that follow the main storyline because obviously Devilman at the end of the original manga it doesn't end. Like the story continues. But also there's like the branches off like Mao Dante and all that crap.
Oh yeah, those are fucking crazy. But yeah, I think the Masaki Yuasa adaptation, the net was really good. Like it did a good job of adapting the manga because I read the original manga.
Same here. I absolutely fucking loved it. Like the original manga was pretty good.
I remember that fourth wall breaking thing. It's like, you're the problem. You're the one that's causing all the wars and the suffering in the world. I'm like, holy shit, man.
Yeah, because Devilman has like an anti-violence message, but it has this like message of use violence only when necessary. Like you don't need to escalate things unless it's completely necessary, which I think is a very good stance because like obviously doing nothing is pointless, but like not taking action when you should is also like if you're not what's the word? Yeah, it's just don't escalate. Violence is necessary, but only, don't escalate things unless you have to, I think is the message of Devilman, wasn't it?
Pretty much, like, maybe only retaliate and only do what's justified or correct.
Yeah, and Devilman is such a fucked up story. Like, his girlfriend gets killed because they think she's a witch because, she's conspiring with a demon and shit.
Yeah, that was a pretty messed up. Even in the manga and in the OVAs.
It's so fucked of how they turn on her so quickly. Like, they break down her door. They kill everyone inside the house. And when the main character gets there, he's just left with nothing but rage and despair.
Yeah, he pretty much loses his shit at that point. And yeah, and she wasn't even one of the demons. So it was just, one of those things where they just feared anything that wasn't them. The fear that was of the foreign and the unknown and all that sort of thing came together. And it ended up being something tragic for the main.
Yeah, and that death still haunts him. Like, he's still haunted by that death that he wasn't able to protect her. And, and another thing that's interesting about it is that the demon that he possessed, like, because in other works we find out more about the demon that he possessed and his personality and stuff, and you're like, man, this guy is really complex. Like, he's actually an interesting character. Like the demon that I think it's Acura. Is his name Acura? Was it Fudo?
Yeah, the main character's name.
Yeah, the main character's like name in Devilman's like Fudo or Acura or something like that. I think it's one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Like the demon that he takes over Amon, like he has a very interesting backstory as well. Because I actually read the prequel manga to one of the prequels to that talks about Amon, and it talks about sort of him growing up in basically like prehistoric, Earth with dinosaurs and shit, and his friendship with Cyrene and the trials and tribulations he went through to become strong and stuff, and it's such an interesting concept because Amon isn't like a fucking, I'm a demon, I'm evil, I'm gonna rip and terrorize and kill people for the sake of it, like he's a character of his own motivations and details and shit he does, like, and if I remember correctly, like Violence Jack is a reincarnation of Akira Fudo or Amon or something like that.
Yeah, Violence Jack's supposed to be a sequel, but I don't know if they're ever gonna. A lot of people don't like it because there's a lot of rape.
And speaking of that, we should maybe talk about Goblin Slayer, which is a series that a lot of people tend to dislike because rape and edginess. But really, I think Goblin Slayer is it's showcasing what happens when you let your guard down and get cocky and arrogant. Because these kids went into a cave and because this is how I explain it to people. Like, these people went into a cave. A cave full of goblins. They didn't prepare for anything. They were just like, oh yeah, we'll just walk in and kill these goblins. Problem solved. Like, they made a bunch of noise. They were talking in a cave, which echoes. And they get jumped and ambushed, and they get killed, and one of them gets raped and shit. And then Goblin Slayer shows up and fights these monsters. And people are just like, oh, it's edgy, but it's just showing that, hey, adventuring is dangerous. You could die, and this is the world they live in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people give back. I feel like that was the world that the creator set out to make, and ended up being like a pretty good take as far as the fantasy is concerned. And actually, a lot of it is Dungeons and Dragons world with I think near the last episode, like dice. And the 1 is representing. So usually there's like a 20-sided dice, and the 1 is the worst roll you can get.
Yeah, I play D&D on a regular. I play D&D on a regular basis, and I have like the light novels of Goblin Slayer. But like, it's just showing it's just showing the consequences of what happens when pride comes before the fall, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we should. I mean, there's probably a few other shows we can cover, but we should probably stop for now because I think we've covered a few shows of what makes it work or what doesn't make it work, and this was Lonewolf's trial run, so we'll see how we go in the future. I'd love to give
I think I'll mention a few shows.
All right, so before we finish, mention a few more shows before we start to wrap this up, just to pad it out.
I'll say Hellgirl, just because it's one of those long-running ones that ended up working for the most part. I didn't like the newer seasons quite as much as the old ones, but I feel like it has a good format for it at least. Blood the Last Vampire, or Blood Plus, or there's another Blood series as well.
I don't like Bloodsea. It's too fucking gory for my taste.
Bloodsea was kind of dumb, but
it's just really stupid. They're in a fucking village with a bunch of monsters. Like, why the fuck don't they run? Like, just leave.
But yeah, the Blood series was definitely an interesting one.
I actually liked Blood Plus, because they had a really interesting take on vampires. I
definitely felt like Blood Plus had the best character development. But I also enjoyed Blood just because it was very different. The ones in Blood, the Last Vampire, the vampires, they look like fucking like monsters, like just straight up monsters.
And speaking of vampires, have you seen Vampire Hunter D?
Oh yeah, Vampire Hunter D. I've read the light novel.
Oh, I've read it too.
It's a great series.
Yeah, it's really good. And we'll talk about let's talk a little bit about Vampire Hunter D before we sort of wrap this up. But what I really like about Vampire Hunter D is sort of how the author sort of covers the inhumanity of the supernatural, like how alien it is to human beings. Like when they describe D or the vampires or supernatural shit, they describe them in very much how shocking it is to see this. Like D, for example, he is so he is so beautiful and shit that if you were not gay or bisexual, you definitely are now because of how inhuman his looks are. They literally talk about as he's going for a village, women and men and even children are just staring at him, and they just can't stop looking at him.
Are you supposed to be otherworld?
Yeah, and actually the same author who does that, he's done Demon City Blues and Demon City Shinjuku, which I've actually read.
Those old OVA and
they have novels. They have novels. Fun. I'm trying to track I'm trying to track them all down because Demon City Blues and Demon City Shinjuku, they have more fucking books to the series, and I'm I want to fucking consume these because these are fucking amazing. You have a doctor who literally fucking rips apart Yakuza members and uses their organs for organ transplants.
Holy shit.
Yeah, Dr. Mephistos is a mean motherfucker. I'll link you him. I've got some of them. Read Demon,
yeah.
I don't have all of them, but it's part of a series called Demon City Blues, and it's it takes place in Shinjuku, and Dr. Mephistos is just fuck yeah. Here you go, let me just link it to you. I don't have all the books because some of them haven't been translated yet, and some of them I can't fucking find because they're released in the fucking 80s. But
holy shit.
I'm trying to track it down. If I ever go to Japan, I'm pretty sure there's this one fucker in Japan who has all the books, and I'm gonna have to buy it off him because that's what's gonna be. So
that one motherfucker. We'll find out. No.
Yeah. I'll find it. Like, if I can't find translated versions, I'll translate them myself, because fuck it. But, like, the author has this really cool style of sort of capturing sort of, like, the unearthliness of the supernatural. How it's not just how they're always, like, horrible, ugly, disgusting monsters, but some of them take on this, like, alien quality about them that just fascinates you and like you almost like in a trance when you stare at them. Like, for example, D, like, I mean, women and children and men are fawning over him, and it doesn't even have to be like sexual. Like, they just can't stop staring at him.
Yeah, I really like that. The movie was amazing. Like, just visually, just looking at it was like, holy shit, how the fuck did they make this? Yeah, man, I think a lot of what's the director's name? He's one of the Madhouse founders.
Yeah, Madhouse generally has like a good, like, Madhouse like consistently has decent directors.
Yoshiaki Kawai.
Yeah,
I don't think he's making anything nowadays.
Fuck.
He's just chilling. The
I
last thing he
actually
made
heard
was fucking...
that they were actually going to make another Vampire Hunter D anime, but I've heard no more further news on it, and I'm like, come on. The novels are already fucking complete.
I was supposed to do Tales of the Lost Sea. They were going to adapt that one.
Oh, I love it. It's Tales of the Lost Sea where D goes to that village and they ask him to stay? Like, stay here with us for a bit. Like, is that the village?
Yeah, that's the one. It's like a fishing village, and then, like, people...
Actually, like, I don't want to turn this into, like, a Vampire and a D podcast, which, you know, we could actually talk about that maybe next time. Mm-hmm. We might do a Vampire and a D podcast, we'll see. But,
just because, yeah.
I mean, I've got most of the novels. Like, I'm up to volume 27 or something, or 28, 26.
Mm-hmm.
So we could actually talk about it, but yeah, Vampire Hunter is a good series. You should watch the movies and read it. It's fucking lit. I mean, there's some volumes that kind of suck, but like when the series is good, it's really good. It's just there's some volumes that are hit and miss for me personally. But I actually like that fishing village arc because D has almost like found a home. Like, these people are like I know that you're like immortal and shit and you like to run around, but, you know, stay here for a couple of decades, please. Like, just please stay here for a few decades. Like, didn't they offer him like a position to be a school teacher or something?
Yeah, like I think the girl wanted, like, yeah, just marry me, stay here.
Stay here for just stay here for a few decades, man. Like, we know that you dampiers can live for a long time. Come on, what's a few decades, please?
Mm-hmm.
I hope he goes back to that village at the end.
Honestly, at one point he should. I feel like it's one of the only places for all that he was. Even the characters that didn't like him much. Like, there was one guy that liked the girl that he was spending time with, his like female companion or whatever. Even that guy was like, "Nah, you're pretty cool, dude." Like,
yeah, stay here. Like, they literally said to him, like, once you finish your journey, come back here, live here with us. We want you here.
Alright, before we wrap up, I'll have a little, like, Bride of Demios. It's an old OVA. It has a lot of interesting horror aspects. Box of Goblins. It's another show from 2008. Around that time, they were making a shit ton of. It's a little mystery series that not a lot of people know about, but it's very worth the watch.
You should link these to me on my anime list so I can just find them. So it's just easy to track this shit down.
Ghost Hound. Not a lot of people talk about Ghost Hound. It's a psychological horror series. It focuses a lot on the mystery and thriller. That's the psychological aspects of it. Pet Shop of Horrors. It's another shoujo horror series. I feel like a lot of the art styles, like, you wouldn't think it's horror because all the people look too pretty for it. But there are quite a few shoujo horror which I feel like could deserve a bit more recognition. Pet Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, like, shoujo is such an unappreciated genre. Like, I know it's like, oh, it's like an Otomo game, it's for girls, but, like, there's some actually legitimately good shoujo out there. Like, there's some really good stuff. Like, they have some very cute romance stories or something that's like, there's some very nice romance stories, like His or Her Connections. I think it's His or Her Circumstances is a really good show.
Circumstances, yeah.
I read the manga and it's good.
I need to read the manga as well. I've watched the show, but it's satisfying.
Yeah, I've got the show on my hard drive because I'm not gonna buy all the manga because fuck that. That's like a lot of shit. I mean, I might, but like there's a lot of shoujo that's actually really good. I mean, like all anime, like most of it is crap, but you're gonna see some diamonds in the rough that are actually good. Like there's another show called Izagami Kiss, which is basically like, imagine Light Yagami from Death Note falling in love. Like, that's basically the show.
Shit. That's awful. That sounds awful, but like, I don't know, man. Hopefully,
it's not that bad. I'll find it for you. I'll link it to you sometime. Like, it's not that bad.
Last shoujo horror series, it's similar to Hellgirl, where they deal with like one supernatural like horror case after another. I really enjoyed this one. I think it's one of the better ones. And last but not least, it's Demon Prince Enma. So it's another one of those Gona guys.
Oh, I've heard of that.
He's the original. He has a lot of interesting stuff, and a lot of people don't know like how big of an influence that Gona guy had in anime. Like, he's pretty much one of the fathers of anime.
I can believe it. Like, I've heard of most of his mecha shit. Like, I've actually got like Get a Robo and some of that stuff on like my watch list.
Mazinger. So it's Osamu Tezuka, which most people know about him. Leiji, he's the guy that did Galaxy Express and Space
That's on my
Battleship
to-do list,
Yamato.
man. I love fucking Space Captain Harlock.
Yeah, and then it's Gona guy, and he's the guy Cutie Honey and Mazinger.
I've got to watch fucking Cutie Honey. Like, that's on my list too. I've got so much fucking retro shit on my list.
Yeah, best version of Cutie Honey is the guy next one. Re Cutie Honey. That's the best in my opinion.
Well, I'm gonna have to watch them all first to see which one's the best. Like, we'll see.
Yeah, but this one, it's called Demon Prince. So it's a reimagining of Gona Guy's character, Enma the Demon Prince, and it's got a lot of these supernatural horror elements, and a lot of people have not seen this, and I feel like it's definitely worth recommending.
I mean, I've actually seen it. Like, isn't she like paired up with like a Western vampire that serves her?
Oh yeah.
And isn't there like a couple of scenes where like one guy willingly goes with one of this monster to where they go back because he's like, I love her and I don't want to be without her ever again. So if you're gonna destroy her or send her back, send me there with her.
Yeah, it's weird. A lot of the shows we've been talking, like people losing their humanity for the sake of a significant other, like Kozette no Shoujo and Saya no Uta. I think you know what's funny? I was talking about someone with Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And they were saying, "Oh, it's such a romantic show or a romantic play about someone falling in love and like, you know, star-crossed lovers." And I'm like, "What the fuck? No, this is a terrible. This is a warning. This is a warning for people that love drives you mad." And like, you know, what happens to the characters at the end of the play? Like, they both kill themselves because they've both been driven mad. And I think maybe that's one of the things like a lot of people don't consider. Like,
yeah, it's actually funny because like it's like you've seen the episode of Vampire Princess Miyu, which I think is what we're talking about. Like it's Demon Princess, I think. Yeah, like
Demon Prince Enma.
Yeah, Emma.
Yeah.
Like, there's an episode where like this guy knows that the because this monster's disguised as a beautiful woman, but he knows that she is some sort of monster, but he doesn't care. He's like, I don't care if you're some demon from hell, I love you. And she's starting to feel love for him too. And he's like, if you're gonna send her back, send me as well. I don't want to stay here without her. And actually, let's talk about that theme of how you have these creatures that are inherently evil, but they fall in love. And it's,
you know what's crazy? Have you seen Dororo?
Repeat that. You just cut out for a second.
Dororo.
I
Dororo, the Osamu Tezuka.
Is it the one about the monster slayer falling in love with that monster and it's like done by Shaft?
No, it was Dororo. Do you know it's like an old Osamu Tezuka manga about a guy, a baby that's born without like his limbs and stuff, and then he has to slowly recover his limbs and eyes and all that.
Oh, I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. Like,
it's actually really good. It's worth watching. You should watch it. There's an episode where one of the demons is like in love with the human, and then I feel like it's a common trope in a lot of these things, and I don't know, maybe it's just. I
mean, it's sort of showcased. I think it's like the Japanese belief of like there's a lot of things that are evil, but there are gonna like it's that belief that it's that duality belief. I think is like, you know, where there is darkness there is light, and where there is light there is darkness. Like, just because, you know, like say for example, these demons are evil and truly monstrous, but not all of them. There may be one or two of them that are not monstrous. You know, there are going to be the exceptions to the rule.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's such an interesting, like, I can't, like, I'm not really, like, an empathetic person where I don't feel emotions that intensely, but the concept kind of interests me, of that, you know, you know that this being is evil, like, you know there's something about them that is inhuman, but you love them regardless, and they kind of love you back, and, like, what drives to be like, if you're gonna send her to hell, then send me too. Because if I'm in hell for doing this, then as long as I'm with her or him, you know, whatever floats your boat, then it doesn't matter. And it's hard for me to grasp. I think that's why I find romance stories and stories like that fascinating, because it's hard for me on a conceptual level to grasp what would drive a person to do that.
Yeah, I can't say I've felt that way about anyone, but it's definitely an interesting thing to consider.
I think we'll end it there because it's getting to an hour, and yeah, it's about an hour. I mean, it'll be shorter once I do like editing and stuff. So Lone Wolf, any ending thoughts?
Yeah, horror has a lot of shows you wouldn't think of, but it's there. You have to just look, and you know, once in a while you might get something like that's relatively popular, the Devilman, Netflix, or Dororo, but most of the time it's just going to be these older shows that you've never heard of. So yeah, don't give up hope on anime horror. There's some good ones out there.
All right, so I'm gonna thank you guys for listening. This is Bio Gundam signing off, and see you guys next video.